Oh, goodness. If you've ever tried to get into something and it's just been one of those moments, hello, everybody. It's Dr. Sasheen coming to you live this Friday in the relationship room. So, freshly, I was going to say freshly laundered, but freshly showered. The sun has decided to come out. Normally, I would complain because it makes the lighting really terrible, but fortunately, unfortunately, I'm going to enjoy it because it's been really overcast and cold, very, very cold for the past few days. So I'm going to enjoy the fact that the sun is peeking through the windows for a change. Excuse the background. That's my desk back there with my planning calendar on the wall and several other things on the wall. So you get to see a little bit behind the scenes because that's just where I am today. So welcome to Friday. It's been a long week. It's been a good week. It's been a long week. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Sasheen, also known as the Metaphysical Goddess. And this is my page or my personal page that you're viewing me on. And I'm assuming I'm live. I guess I should probably check on that. Hang on a second. Let's see. It's funny because everyone's going live at the exact same time. So my phone is blowing up with the notifications of everyone going live. Yep, I'm here. So today we're talking about what's next. So Fridays are becoming the Relationship Friday. For those of you who have not followed me before, my work is in energy. And right now, we're talking a lot about the energy of separation and divorce. But I do talk about the energy in other ways. But mostly right now, I'm talking about it for the foreseeable future on the energy of separation and divorce. Now, I'm going to give you some really good tips today on how you're going to be able to get yourself out of an argument without resorting to what I like to call the downward spiral of communication, of destructive communication. Because so often when we get into an argument with someone that we love, with someone that we care about, just like, close my door, please. Just a moment. Just a moment. Thought my door was locked. Apparently it's not. Give me a second here. All right. It's a good thing today I decided to wear a dress instead of sweatpants. Okay. So back to what I was saying. So too often when we get into a tiff or a bad place in our relationship, the energy just starts to feed on each other. So think of this like the beginnings of a tornado. Certain conditions have to be present in the atmosphere for an actual tornado to form. It can be raining. That's not going to produce a tornado. It can be windy. Not going to produce a tornado. There has to be a certain confluence of events for a tornado to actually form and to be destructive enough that we remember it. Because tornadoes form and dissipate quite quickly. I grew up in Tornado Alley, so I'm kind of well-versed on this. The same thing happens in a relationship when an argument begins. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about the necessary components for an argument to go from constructive to destructive. And this is going to be a fast moving today. But also, oh, hi, Laura, thank you. But also what you can do to stop the spiral from going downward. So the energy of an argument is unique. There are conversations that you have with your significant other or your spouse, whatever you choose to call them, I'm just going to say SO, that don't devolve into a destructive argument. We chatter at each other incessantly. We irritate each other all the time. We have bickering back and forth. Those things don't devolve into destructive criticism unless they're happening over the course of a long period of time. That's for another live cast. Today, I'm really talking about those discussions that you can feel the energy shift from constructive to destructive almost in the moment that it's happening. That kind of energy requires continual fuel. So you start this conversation, you're both probably irritated, you're both probably not thinking clearly, and you're both highly emotionally charged. That's one of the first things that becomes apparent in a destructive communication cycle, right? Is the charge of emotion behind the words that are coming out. You often hear yourself saying things like, I don't mean to be unkind, but that means that you have now crossed the emotional barrier and you're no longer looking to take responsibility for what's coming out of your mouth. So what's coming next, the other person is probably going to respond in kind, right? they're going to say, well, since we're being honest, and that usually means, okay, we've gone from potentially what could be a conversation that, again, could be one of many that just kind of fizzles out, to getting into an argument, the kind of argument that will leave a mark on the relationship. So once we have engaged the emotional kind of punch, then what happens is we start to want to outdo each other, right? Well, if you hurt me, then I'm going to circle back around and hurt you. Oh, you hurt me? Let me come back around and hurt you. This is where, remember 5 years ago? Oh, well, remember when your mother said, oh, well, didn't you just, and we start to do the tornado dance. And slowly, just as a tornado happens, you can begin to see the funnel start to form. You can begin to see the words beginning to kind of spin around themselves and around themselves and around themselves, to the point where now we have a tight funnel going. Because what most people don't realize is to get to that big F5 tornado that you see on television, that huge monster, starts with a rope. Starts with just a rope that just gets turned and turned. And that the same thing can be seen happening in relationship arguments that are in the devolutionary phase. They are just destroying everything in their path. It starts with that spiral. You did it, I did it. You did it, I did it. You did it, I did it. And so it continues to spiral down and down and down, to the point where eventually it begins to pull in, and this is what forms a large tornado. It begins to pull everything into it. It's so powerful. Now we're fighting about the kids, and we're fighting about the mortgage. We're fighting about the rent. We're fighting about your spending habits. We're fighting about your friends. We're fighting about my friends. We're fighting about our families. We're fighting about the dog, the cat, the goldfish, the gerbil, the hamster. We're fighting about things that happened 10 years ago. Shit, we're fighting about things that might happen 20 years from now, but we're fighting. And in the midst of that fighting, we're also making sure that we hit our mark. Because what's important in the destructive edge of a conversation is that I want to make sure that I am hurting you and as equal of or not more so than you are hurting me. That is when true destruction begins to occur. Because as long as the idea is simply that if I can just hurt you more than you have hurt me in this moment, then in the end, I will feel like I have won. Even if I don't really win anything, I just want to know that I hurt you. So that's kind of the short and dirty version of how a relationship gets to the destructive phase. How do you stop it? How do you stop it? You know, there's a lot of literature and information and books about what to do in a relationship and the 5 dances of anger and all kinds of things. But very rarely do we actually talk about, in the midst of the moment, can you dissipate that energy? Can you stop it from becoming so destructive? What I'm about to talk to you about is this concept called nexting. And I want to make sure I get your name right, so hang on a second. I'm not going to get her name right. I'm not going to get her name right, which is just too bad, because I'm going to have to read another time. So I'll have to reference it. I was reading one of my textbooks today. And, oh, Susan Scott, that's it. I'm like, wait a second. I feel as though, yes, I in fact did, no, maybe it wasn't Susan Scott. No, it wasn't. It was not. Well, I read it, I was reading it in someone, and I've used it so many times I could swear it was Susan Scott. Anyway, the point is, once you have two people who are basically in the stands of a prize fight, and the prize is a relationship, how do you stop that downward spiral? How do you get to a place where you legitimately say, hang on, wait for it. How do we get the energy here back so that I can stop hurting you and you can stop hurting me? Well, there's this concept in the literature I was reading, and other literature as well, called nexting. When I taught interpersonal communication in the classroom, I did so for many, many years. And I would teach this concept, which is why it's escaping me, why I can't remember her name. But students often said, I can't even imagine that would work. I can't imagine that it would work. All nexting says is that in the moment before you open your mouth, this thing right here, ask yourself one simple question. What do I want to happen next? What do I want to happen next? That's it. Just ask a very simple question of yourself, not of the person that you're fighting with, not of the people, not of the arguments of itself, but what do you really want to happen next? And if you can think about this in terms of our tornado, Back to our analogy. Say you are a sentient tornado, and you can ask yourself, what do I really want to happen next here? Do I want to get bigger and cause a mile-long swath of destruction and destroy that town over there? Or what I really just want is to maybe go over into that open field over there where I can have the freedom to be big and bold and beautiful, tornadic majesty, but not hurt anybody? Or am I just tired and I want to stop fighting? I just want to stop fighting. I don't want to turn and spin and churn. I'm ready to be done. In a relationship, in an argument, in the midst of a destructive cycle, it might seem completely counterintuitive to ask yourself, what do I want to happen next? But it's actually the most intuitive thing that you can do, because it actually locks in to what you really want to happen in the next moment. The problem is you can't get to next with your emotions running high. So you have to stop and take a deep breath. And I mean the kind of breath that makes you go, oh my gosh, I can't take in any more air. And you let it out and you just ask yourself, what do I want to happen next? Do I want to see this person cry? Do I want to see this person storm out of the room? Do I want to see this relationship end in divorce? Do I want to see this friendship go away? Do I want the next thing to happen to be another fling back at me over something that I might have done 2 months ago, even though I just flung that same thing at them? When we stop and we actually, in the moment, it doesn't take more than 2 seconds to ask yourself that question before you open your mouth. What do you want to happen next? If the answer is, I just want this to stop, then it's now on you. The ball's now in your court to go, okay, so if the next moment, the next thing I do, I want to lead to this stopping, to this cycle of viciousness stopping, okay, then what can I say next that will help that happen? Because that's a whole different agenda, right? You reset the agenda almost instantaneously in your energy. So now your brain can go, okay, well, if the goal here is to not continue to be vicious and to actually get to an end to this conversation that allows us both to keep our dignity, then I can't say this thing over here that I thought I would say. I got to say something else. So maybe what I'm going to say is, you know what? I can't do this anymore right now. And I'm sorry that we've gotten to this point, and I'm going to walk away because it's more important to me now that we bring this to a close. That's the next thing that you could say, right? Most people just don't get there because the emotion of being right and being right now is so high, and the hurt that's attached to that moment is so strong. And the last thing that you want to do is capitulate and appear to be weak, right? But here's the thing about relationships, and here's the thing about devolving into destructive communication patterns. At some point, you're either going to build your relationship together or you're going to destroy it together. It's just that simple. The more destructive your communication patterns are, whether they're with your spouse, your kids, yourself, your parents, your whatever, the more destructive your communication patterns are, the more likely that you are destroying your life in multiple ways in every single day. The more constructive ideas you have in your head about stopping destruction, the better your life is. The better your life is. You know, it's this billion-dollar industry: family therapy, marriage therapy, family counseling, books on how to save your marriage and save your relationship. Here's a 2-second piece of free advice. If you don't want someone to destroy you with their words in your arguments, don't destroy them with your words. And if you've gotten into the cycle, if you're the tornado and you are spinning out of control, even the tornado has an eye of calm. Find your center. Allow your inner voice to say, what do you want to happen next? Try to listen under your hurt for the voice of reason. And this is not always your mind, because the mind is a cheap gigolo. It will follow any thought that you give it and it will run with it as if it's the truth. Listen to your intuition that says, underneath the chatter, what I really want to happen next is I want them to apologize. Okay, if that's the next thing that you want is for them to apologize, how do you get there? Perhaps by saying you're sorry. Just a thought. That is the relationship room for this afternoon, January the 11th, on a fabulous Friday, cold but fabulously sunny Friday here in the beautiful northeast corner of the United States. Hope that you'll have a fantastic weekend and that you have learned a little bit more about constructive and destructive communication patterns in relationships and how to get out of the death spiral before you end up killing the thing that you love. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.